teach us something right now about our day as we reflect back on Noah's day. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. So the flood, quote unquote, is coming. That's what Hannah just read. So shall the days be. So it's just really, to me, here we are on the brink of 2017. And I had this sermon, actually, very similar to this. I copied a lot of it from a sermon I did here back in 2009. I thought we were pretty close then. That was 7 years ago. Right? 7 years have passed like that. And has anything really changed from 7 years ago? A lot has changed. Wow. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And so reflecting on New Year's resolutions, right? Here we are. How many of you, I guess you don't have to raise your hand. You can if you want. Have you made any New Year's resolutions? Have you thought about some things that you'd like to change in your life? I have. A lot. We've all probably done New Year's resolutions. We see the need for change. We believe in the change. We have the desire to change. We make a commitment to ourselves and even sometimes to others. And just too quickly, we make compromises or give up entirely. You know, some people, and my wife says I shouldn't make analogies of her or something, but she made a neat commitment. This, I thought was really neat. She made a commitment to run at least 1 mile every day of December. And wow, there were times that was difficult because our lives are busy like your guys's, and so sometimes she'd get on the treadmill at home just 10 minutes or so before midnight. She had to get on there and get her 1 mile in before midnight. So she had her mile in for that day. One time we were leaving from somewhere, was it from here or from Goebels, and the Christmas program over at Goebels, and it was getting close to midnight, and she said, "Man, that's too bad. I'm not gonna get my 1 mile in today." And you know, as I was driving and approaching Goebels, and we're coming into town, and the lights of town, and I saw the sidewalks and stuff cleared off, and snow, and I turned to her and I said, "You know, if you'd like to, I don't mind. I could drop you off right here, and you could run on the sidewalk down through town." I looked at the clock of the Jeep, and it was about 13 minutes before midnight. She looked at the clock, and she got excited. She said, "You don't mind waiting?" I said, "Oh, I mean, who am I? She's the one that's going to get out there in a crazy weather and go running while I'm in the warm Jeep." Sure enough, she jumped out of the Jeep. She had boots on and stuff. She jumped out of the Jeep, and Hannah and David, "Oh, I'm going with her." And they jumped out of the Jeep, and they all ran down through town. Well, that wasn't a mile, so they got near Healy's Hardware down there and turned around, and a police officer was at the cross street there and watching me just kind of putzing along with 3 of my family members running alongside the road. I'm like, "Oh, great. What's he thinking? I'm just this mean guy that just told him, 'You gotta get out and run home.'" So I ended up pulling over by him, and I told him what was going on, and he laughed. And so, commitments. I mean, we make resolutions to ourselves, and it's really a neat thing to stay committed to some things. And but too often we give up on our convictions and we make compromises and stuff. And sometimes there is a need or a good reason to compromise on something. I mean, you might have an illness or something, or you might circumstances changes, or whatever it is that I don't know what it is, but I don't want you to think that I'm saying when you make a commitment, you stick with it no matter what. I mean, there's things, but some usually easiest to follow the crowd. Is that a basic fact, kind of in general? Not always, not all circumstances, but it's usually easiest to follow the crowd. How about we make lots of decisions based on what others think, feel, say, or do? A lot of times. How about standing for your convictions, whatever they may be, against the majority can be tough and can come with even major hardships. Is that kind of a basic fact? Yeah. How about last one there? Truth is often challenged as relative. Is that true? Truth. So many people say, yeah, I think that's kind of relative. I'm not sure that, or that's irrelevant to today, right? And so many times people are starting to say that about this book. In general, or pieces of this book, truths of this book, that's not relative today. Wow, I think there's a danger there. So let's go back to Noah's day. What was it like back then? You know, I would love to, you have these little, even kids programs and different things when our kids were young, and there's this real low budget, seemingly, animated little thing about God, and it was called The House or something, or The Flying House or something like this. Remember that little flying house? And they would get in the flying house, and the house would fly into time, and then they'd land, and they'd go in Bible times, and then they'd see so-and-so in Bible times and stuff, and then they'd get on their flying house and go back and stuff. What would it be like to fly, so to speak, back in time to Noah's day? Meet Noah. Meet his wife, his kids. And interestingly, back then, for at least a period of time, I guess Methuselah was still around. So you even get to meet Methuselah, who, how long did he live? 969 years. Wow. What did he look like at 969? I don't know. Be interesting to find out. But back in Noah's day, let's go in our Bibles to Genesis 6, 1 through 7. Genesis, first book in the Bible, Genesis 6. It's actually page. Interesting. It's page 5. How about that? Page 5. Genesis 6, 1 through 7. And it says, Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful. And they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever. For he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Verse 4 says, There were giants on the earth in those days, also afterwards, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Verse 5 says, Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the earth, face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing and bird, and the air. For I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. You know, and then it goes on. It says, This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt, verse 11, before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. So let's end right there for a moment. So what would it be like going back to Noah's day? Would it, I mean, at first it kind of sounds kind of neat, and you go back in Noah's day and see Noah and maybe Methuselah and different other people and stuff. But in Noah's day, it sounds like it got to the point where it was wicked beyond our imaginations. Continually wicked. Their thoughts were evil all the time. They were constantly doing horrible things to the point I can't even comprehend that it would get to the point where God himself would say, I wish I had never made them. That's pretty strong. And I'm sad that God has to look down and see the atrocities that go on in this earth. Patriarchs and Prophets, a book that is just an incredible book. It talks about this. It says here, God bestowed upon these antediluvians many and rich gifts, but they used his bounties to glorify themselves and turned them into a curse by fixing their affections upon the gifts instead of the giver. How often maybe have we done stuff like that? God blesses us in so many ways, and then we focus on the gift versus focus on the giver. They employed the gold and the silver, the precious stones and the choice wood in the construction of habitations for themselves, and endeavored to excel one another in beautifying their dwellings with the most skillful workmanship. They sought only to gratify the desires of their own proud hearts, and reveled in scenes of pleasure and wickedness, not desiring to retain God in their knowledge. They soon came to deny his existence. They adorned themselves. They adored nature in place of the God of nature. They glorified human genius, worshiped the works of their own hands, and taught their children to bow down to graven images. In the green fields and under the shadow of the goodly trees, they set up the altars of their idols. Extensive groves that retained their foliage throughout the year were dedicated to the worship of false gods. These are beautiful groves growing beautifully because God designed them that way. But instead of glorifying God who created this and even sustains all this, they set up worship of gods, false gods, within those. With these groves were connected beautiful gardens, their long, winding avenues overhung with fruit-bearing trees of all descriptions, adorned with statuary and furnished with all that could delight the senses or minister to the voluptuous desires of the people, and thus allure them to participate in the idolatrous worship. Men put God out of their knowledge and worship the creatures of their own imagination, and as a result, they became more and more debased. The psalmist describes the effect produced upon the worshiper by the adoration of idols. He says, they that made them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusteth in them. Psalms 115:8. It is a law of the human mind that by beholding we become changed. Man will rise no higher than his conceptions of truth, purity, and holiness. If the mind is never exalted above the level of humanity, if it is not uplifted by faith to contemplate infinite wisdom and love, the man will be constantly sinking lower and lower. The worshippers of false gods clothe their deities with human attributes and passions, and thus So, this does not sound like probably a very nice place to go back to. We'd be kind of going the wrong direction. And so, it does sound a lot like today, doesn't it? The parallelism is striking. How about our day versus Noah's day? How does our world in 2016 compare to Noah's day? Is there war on marriage? Absolutely. Is there war on Christian values? Absolutely. Is there lawlessness? It abounds. Compromise on values and seemingly glorifying whatever is sinful? That's right. That's right. It is horrifying to see really sinful practices being lifted up as good and celebrated. That's where we live today. Has it gotten easier to stand for truth? No, it sure hasn't. So, Noah must have been abhorred with it all. He had learned about God and his ways and made them his own. In Genesis 6:22, it's on the screen, you can look in your Bibles there. It says, "Thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him, so did he." So Noah didn't just look at God's commandments and say, those are suggestions that I can take into consideration, but I'll weigh whether or not I want to do them, and if it's convenient for me, I'll do them, and if not, it's okay. No, he saw them as commandments for his good. Who knows best what your good is, you or your Creator? The Creator. And so God isn't going to ask us to do something that isn't for our best interest and for our good. Genesis 6:8-9 says, "But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." These are the generation of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation. And I love this statement. And Noah walked with God. What is that like? To walk with God. Well, that was back then. We can't possibly walk with God, can we? We can. We can walk with God. He wants to be our friend just like he was Noah's friend. Noah wasn't some special man just because he was born. We all have the same opportunity to do like Noah did there. Genesis 7:1 says, "And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteousness before me in this generation." Excuse me. In this generation. I think that's neat to emphasize. This isn't Adam and Eve in their generation when things were a lot more perfect and sin hadn't really got up to speed. This is Noah. And it says that God saw him righteous before him in that generation that he was living. So it can be done. We can live a righteous life only through God. We can't do it ourselves. We can ask God to come into our lives and live his life out through us, even in this generation. And he can make us righteous as he is righteous. So God finally made a decision to destroy the earth and start over. Can't even imagine as he was contemplating that. I can't even imagine what he went through. It's hard to even go there. And God directed Noah to build an ark. And it says here in Great Controversy as well, amid the prevailing corruption, Methuselah, Noah, and many others labored to keep alive the knowledge of the true God and to stay the tide of moral evil. Can you just see these guys? These people banding together. Noah, Methuselah, all these mighty men of God So he wasn't just supposed to just kind of hit the nail and the hammer and just keep working away and say, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to tell what's really going to happen. No, he was supposed to, while he's building it, to be proclaiming what's coming. Those who believe the message and would prepare for that event by repentance and reformation should find pardon and be saved. Enoch had repeated to his children what God had shown him in regard to the flood. And Methuselah and his sons, who lived to hear the preaching of Noah, assisted in building the ark. That's pretty amazing. So, I can't wait. Again, I want to see God's recording. I'm sure God recorded all of history. To watch Methuselah, at this point, almost 969 years of age, out there with Noah and his sons, building that ark. The ark that he would never get out of. Wow. So God directed Noah to build the ark. And so what are we doing to keep from getting the world all over us? And, there. What did Noah do? He separated himself and his family from the worldly customs and practices of that day. And he focused on securing for himself a saving relationship with God. That is so paramount. So many, I haven't been trained as a paramedic or a rescue person, but I've heard that you need to make sure that even on a plane, they say when you get on a plane, if there's any accident that happens or something, put your oxygen on first, and then you help others, right? Because you're not going to be able to help others if you keel off and die. So just put that on first. It's very important for us to focus on a relationship with God ourselves. And then, out of that, we can share with others. And then he focused on securing for his family a saving relationship and knowledge of God. So what are we doing to keep from getting the world all over us? Romans 12:2 says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. That's the will of God. Do you believe God has a will for you? He does. But wait, you have a will also, don't you? You have a will. The simple key to the whole scripture seems to be, that I found, is surrendering our will to him and accepting his will for us. And it seems simple, and it is simple, but you just got to surrender, and that's tough. What has consumed your time and my time this past year in 2016? How much time was spent learning about everything and everyone except the one who can save you and truly fulfill your life? In this day and age, we have distractions, I would dare say, like none other generation. It is crazy how these things, cell phones, have changed our lives. Cell phones have brought everything to our hands whenever we want it. And before you know it, all the social media, and I'm not saying it's all bad, I'm just saying, it's amazing how people get consumed by social media, get consumed by their phones. You could spend every waking moment of your day, if you wanted, looking at your phone and probably get really too tired. going to be sad when Jesus does come and we realize how short of a time we really had. And we'd like to tell him, wait. But there's so much more people that I want to tell him. But it'll be too late. As Noah drew closer to God, his mission became clear. He was called out from being like the world. He was called to save others. He was called to build an ark. And he is called to proclaim a message. Do you feel like possibly God is calling us to similar things? Why did he get called to all this? Because the flood was coming. God doesn't just call you to do things for just any reason, just because. It's because there's something coming. There's some need for it. That's why he's calling us to this. He knows the future. After 120 years, hard work, preaching and teaching and proclaiming God's message, the results were finally in. Noah plus 7 others, his wife, sons, and their wives, were the only ones that got on that ark and were saved. After 120 years of preaching, that's all that were saved. That's pretty bad statistics. Many people are probably so convicted that they started from home to go to join up with Noah, but were turned away by friends and spouses and children. Oh, don't join that fanatic, that fundamentalist. And do you realize that even today, Christians are starting to be called fanatics? Christians are starting to be called fundamentalists in a negative context. Oh, you're one of those that really believes everything the Bible says? Oh, you take that literally? Oh, you're a fundamentalist. You need to get up with the times. But yet God is preparing his people that are wanting to seek him in spirit and in truth. Many probably procrastinated and said, when he's done building that ark, yeah, I'll join him. But yet, if you delay your conviction, if you delay when God is calling you, it might be too late. And that sets, when you delay, it kind of starts a trend going in your life. You delay now, when God calls you and convicts you, it's easier to delay again and again. Finally, the door started to close. Fear probably gripped some of them. Others probably laughed and cheered as that big door just started closing. If I saw a door like that start closing, too late. And I didn't see anything closing it, boy, you'd think I'd want to go jump on and kind of get over top of that thing and get on in. But, you know, at that point, I think everybody had got to the point where they were just they jeered at him for so long. And you know, the rain didn't just start happening and then the door closed. No. That would have put some fear into the people, and they all would have then piled on the boat. But God is asking us to follow him and trust him in faith. In faith. When he asks us to do things, just in faith, just do it. Know that he has your best interest in mind. And he's going to take care of you. As the door to the ark closed and sealed, so was their faith. Some were saved. too often, actually, I don't think. Was the majority right in Noah's day? Majority was dead wrong. They died. The majority in your life might say, you know what? That, how you interpret the Bible, how you're going to church on that seventh day, you know what? That's, the majority goes to church on Sunday. Come on, get with the program. It's not that big of a deal. Really? Is it that big of a deal? You know what? You got to ask yourself, does God say it's a big deal? He does. Who am I to distrust what he says? And you can take, I just use that as just one of tons of examples you can draw of God's truths that are being under attack. Marriage. Is God's way of marriage? Is that, oh, you're one of those that believes what the Bible says? Come on now. That's old. We're in the, whatever century we're in. 21st century. It's always odd how it kind of, yeah, you got to go back there. How about Sodom and Gomorrah's day? Was the majority right or wrong? The majority was wrong. Once again, dead wrong. Elijah and Mount Carmel, were the majority right? No, they were wrong. Israelites in Jesus' day, when Jesus came to teach new truths and to show, here I am. I'm the Christ that you guys have been reading about. Here I am. Did the majority believe him? No. In the end, does the Bible say the majority will be right and be saved? Unfortunately not. The flood is coming. The flood is coming. This man that's on your screen, anybody recognize him? Martin Luther. Martin Luther, one of the most prominent reformers, stood up. He was a Catholic monk. And he started reading his Bible, reading a Bible. And he got convicted that the church that he was going to was wrong. In not just one thing. In lots of things. Finally, he started compiling those things. Finally, he came up with 95 things that the Catholic Church was wrong on. And this man, despite knowing his life would probably end because of his convictions, he wrote them down. He went to a Wittenberg church, and he nailed those 95 theses to that door. And that was kind of the beginning of the whole Protestant Reformation. Protestant meaning protested. Protested against the Catholic Church. And again, I want to start right off by saying, there are wonderful, God-fearing people in every denomination. Every denomination. And the Bible in Revelation says, at some point, God's going to call them out and say, come out of her, my people. God has his people in all kinds of different denominations. And when they hear truth, they're going to follow it. Because at this point, they're following what they believe to be truth. And as God reveals to them, like he did to Martin Luther, more truth, they're going to stand for truth. They're going to stand for God. This year, coming up, 2017, is the 500th year of Martin Luther nailing those 95 theses to that door of the church in Wittenberg. This year, I read it was October 31st, thought that was kind of interesting, is the anniversary day of that. The Catholic Church, along with the Lutherans, who've already together with the Catholic Church and lots of other denominations are planning to come together on the very day of the anniversary of Martin Luther nailing those 95 Theses to the door to sign a declaration basically saying the protest is over. We're coming together just as one. You ever heard of one world? One world? It's coming. One world. That's what their goal is. Right now over in Wittenberg, they're decorating, they're doing all kinds of things, getting ready for this big event. They even have a big world globe, a huge one, it looks huge, that's chrome. And then all of the continents are red, symbolizing Reformation and revival, symbolizing all will become one. But wait, has the Catholic Church denounced any of those 95 and said we were wrong on any one of them? Not one. But yet wait, why are all the Protestant churches coming together and saying, yeah, let's be one? It's called compromise. It's called setting aside God's truths to unify. And that's not what God is calling his people to do. The majority is going to follow this path. It's going to be a flood. It's the flood coming. So the door of Earth's history, according to the Bible prophecy, is closing. The sealing is going on. Probation for some has come, who have already passed away. There's once you're passed away, your fate is sealed there. Probation for all is coming. When you feel the quote-unquote rain, it'll probably be too late. You'll already have had many chances. Now is the time to do as Noah and his family did. Like our scripture said, and as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, and were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. They were busy, right? Verse 29 says, but the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Verse 30 ends with, even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. That's coming. It's good news, right? It's good news. If you believe and have surrendered your life to him. It's great news. It's the end of the world as we know it. Full of sin and sickness and sorrows and pain, suffering and death. But it's going to be bad news for a lot of people. And so it is ark building time. It's ark building time. It's time to get busy building up God's church. If you could envision this church, it doesn't quite look like an ark, does it? But the people that came in at the end of Noah's day into the ark were the people that believed God. They trusted God with all their hearts. They were the people that followed him in all truths. So shall it be with God's churches, all of his churches, that hold up his high standard. And they're not compromising. They're not compromising. Even unto death. In an age when lawlessness abounds, even in churches, God is calling his churches to get back to primitive godliness. And this last quote, I'll read. Notwithstanding the widespread declension of faith and piety, there are true followers of Christ in these churches. Before the final visitation of God's judgments upon earth, there will be, among the people of the Lord, such a revival of primitive godliness as has not been witnessed since apostolic times. The Spirit of God, Spirit and power of God will be poured out upon his children. At that time, many will separate themselves from those churches in which the love of this world has supplanted love for God and his word. Many, both of ministers and people, will gladly accept those great truths which God has caused to be proclaimed at this time, to prepare people for the Lord's second coming. The enemy of souls desires to hinder this work, and before the time for such a movement shall come, he will endeavor to prevent it by introducing a counterfeit in those churches which he can bring under his deceptive power. Wait, that's churches being under the deceptive power of Satan. In those churches which he can bring under his deceptive power, he will make it appear that God's special blessing is poured out. There will be manifest what is thought to be a great religious interest. Multitudes will exult that God is working marvelously for them, when the work is that of another spirit. Under a religious guise, Satan will seek to extend his influence over the Christian world. Wow. So, in conclusion, it's time to seek God with all of our hearts. It's time to focus on learning about him, to proclaim the good news. Because why? Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming, and the door of probation is closing. It's time to get ready. And in this new year, the most important thing is to establish for yourself that ultimate relationship with Jesus. And I can think of no other book better, except the Bible itself, than this little book. It's called Steps to Christ. This is one of my favorite books. I've read this over and over. Every year I read this book. I keep reading it and reading it. I draw so much encouragement, so much strength, so much truth from this book. Mindy and I went down to the ABC, and like I had said before, and we saw this book. And this particular one, it's even illustrated. And it is really beautifully done. And so we picked up some of these, and I brought some, and I'd love to give you this as a gift. If you don't have one of these, or if you even like this one here, you're welcome as you go out. Get one of these books. I encourage you this year, draw closer to Jesus, because he's drawing closer to coming. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, here we are, thanking you so much for your truths in your Bible. Truths that are there to change our lives, make us ready for Jesus' soon coming and to be part of your kingdom that's going to last throughout eternity. We long for ourselves and all our family and our friends to be ready. Lord, once again, I'd like to, without any hands raised or anybody coming forward or anybody even getting out of their seats or standing, just right where you are, as we close out 2016, just say, if you like, Lord, I'm sorry for falling short in this year in many ways. And I long to be all that you want me to be. Lord, I surrender my will to you right now. I surrender my family. Everything I have back to you right now. power of your Holy Spirit to live your life out through me. Empower, equip, and enable